I need help with my marketing. What should I be doing? And what do I do if I don't have a lot of money to be spending on it? Welcome to the Moms Makin Dough podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Hewitt, and today's episode is all about one of my favorite things to talk about besides cash, and that is marketing. And today we're going to dive into a couple of marketing strategies that are sound a little bit old school, but never lose their luster. So I'm just returning from a hiatus. I was in Spain for a wedding of a dear family friend of ours. And I wanted to open today talking about this because it made me think about how I started studying marketing 20 plus years ago. Because the reason that I'm going to share this intro story is I lived in Spain for a little while. I lived in the south of Spain. I lived in a town called Marbella. Well, more specifically, a port called Porta Banús. And Porta Banús is a very, very exclusive, wealthy community. And I went out there because I had a friend who was British. And I met him at an event and he was opening an office in the Costa del Sol. That's what that area of Spain is called. And man, going to Spain this time was like even though I was in a very different part, I was in Barcelona, was a walk down memory lane of talking to my younger self. And, I wanted to jump in this story today because I wanted to share a little bit about how I ended up there, like I said, with this, friend of mine that was opening this office, and the travel company he was opening was going to serve the British population because they're, a lot of people from England, they come to the south of Spain. It's a very easy flight. It's our flight from Boston to Florida. So a lot of people escape the London city and England weather, and they will come to the south of Spain, which obviously has a much nicer climate pretty much year round. So, I went and lived there. I lived there for a few months and I did not speak Spanish because I was serving, like I said, intending to serve this population that was from England, not actually from Spain. And man, did I have a good time there. And it was such an unbelievable experience that I feel so blessed to have, especially not having it the traditional college route, having it much more of an entrepreneurial route. This is what happened to me after I had dropped out of college. And like I said, through a business networking event, I met this man, Julian. He was an awesome guy who was opening this office. And that's how I ended up going down there. And, um, so I hadn't been to Spain for 20 plus years. I think I was about 21 when I was living there. I'm absolutely not actually not even sure of the exact age. And of course, I can't remember a lot of it because a lot of it was fun. So, but I wanted to just bring up this intro because it was so interesting. I think it's so healthy for you to not only travel and take time out of your daily routine, out of your business, out of your life, regardless of where you're at, but it's so important to expand your mind about like other cultures and how business is done in in different parts of the world. Like one of the things I was explaining to Ryan when he was there, who had been there before, but we kind of both forgot about how most areas of Spain, they literally do take a siesta. And that doesn't mean that they take a siesta, which means a nap, but a lot of the businesses close between 4 and 6. That's very common. Like I was going down to grab some band-aids at the pharmacy and went downstairs from our flat and realized that it was 4:30 and there was no way I was going to find something that was going to get me a band-aid at that time. So, just so curious to see, like, just how different cultures operate, and they have, if you've ever been to Spain, this is one part of Europe that their nightlife is very, very vibrant. it almost starts like going out to dinner at 9 or 10 at night is very normal for them. And it was great because we would get reservations at places because we were not going out at 9 or 10. Even though I am so proud of us on how much we stayed up, including the night we went to our wedding, which was absolutely amazing. We stayed up till God, I think we were up till 3:30 in the morning. So, and they were just getting started when we were leaving at 3:30, I feel like. So, what was another really amazing thing was, like I said, we were at this beautiful, we were in a beach town about 2.5 hours out of Barcelona. And the reason that this was coming to mind when I was thinking about this episode was, I was just sitting there on we had an awesome little apartment that was Airbnb in this cute, cute little beach town. And it was like 3 or 4 floors. And at the top, there was like an open air patio. And so every morning, Ryan and I that's another thing about Spain, they're not big breakfast people, right? So there's some cultures that are big breakfast people. Like, I remember when we went to Norway, big breakfast people, right? But in Spain, they're usually sleeping that first part of the morning because they've been out till 3 or in the morning or working till 3 in the morning. So, I was just reminded that, like, the breakfast is not the big focus of their meals. So, we had an Airbnb with a kitchen, decided that we were going to, cook and eat up on this patio. So, sitting on that patio, and I was sitting there just soaking it in. And do you ever I feel like as I start to get older, this starts to come up more and more where it's like you just really want to savor moments. So I was sitting on this patio. At this point, Ryan had already ate. He was downstairs cleaning up the dishes, and I was sitting there just thinking like, "Man, 20 plus years has gone by since I sat in this country." And this was a really good reason to go back to it, and it's a country I love, a culture I love. We had such an amazing time, but one of the things that really kept coming into my mind is like, what would I tell my younger self? And what would I tell my younger self about where I'm at today? Like, have I gone above and beyond where I thought I would be at that age? Did I even think about that at that age? I've always been very goal driven and ambitious. So I definitely know I had a vision of what my life would look like 20 plus years from now. And there are aspects of my life that I am super proud of that I think that I really um, you know, got some of that vision. There's always room for more growth. Like, that's how we evolve as humans and in our businesses. But also, too, there are things that I'm like, here, what would I tell myself? And a couple of things I thought about. Number one was I thought about like I would tell myself as a younger person not to care so much about what other people think of you. And that kinda got me down this other path of, like, what were some of the other things. So I started writing them down as I sat on this patio, and some of the things that came up for me were, what were some of the things that I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know, like, what kind of facet that would take on for me. But I also really know, like, one of the reasons that Julian hired me to come down to Spain was because I had already very much, um, not only proved myself, but I just really had a passion for marketing and promotion, and it came very natural to me. And one of the things that I thought about telling my younger self was just about how to pursue things. You're not gonna pursue things all the time that you're really passionate about. There's gonna be things that you're gonna have to do, especially in business, that might not come naturally to you or until you can hire someone else to do them. But at the same time, it made me really, really think about how promoting and marketing was something that I was just always interested in, and it did come naturally for me, and about how little time I spend in that and how much it has drastically changed. What worked then, we didn't even have online. We definitely didn't have Facebook and Instagram. We didn't have ads. I was thinking about how crazy it was about how, like, I'm taking so many pictures on my cell phone. And I remember at that point in my life, I had a cell phone, 3,000 miles across the globe. only for one reason, so my mom could contact me and I could contact my mom if I needed her. And now I was sitting there on this patio and I'm writing notes in my phone about like what are some of those lessons. So the one I want to focus on today that really came up besides, really that deep down ingrained thing of like not giving so much attention to what people fucking think about me and just putting a message out into the world, even though it's might not be your message in the future. It might be a stepping stone to what your real message or what your real brand will be in the future. And if I'm being honest, like even throwing out Moms Making Dough, like it's already starting to take a life of its own that I didn't plan for. And it's like some of the stuff on your marketing and your brand, you have a general idea of what direction you want to go to, but it really does take a life on of its own. And you also influence it with the types of marketing and the messaging that you decide to put out there. So, with the younger self thing, it was like, just like, I remember I used to always say this phrase of like, always be marketing. But then I was thinking, as I said this, that man, the marketing like atmosphere has changed so much. You have to have so many different skills now. And like I said, digital ads are where it's at. Like very rarely do you see even like you still see print ads, but nowhere near on the level that they were at when I was younger. So today I'm going to talk about some of the principles that never change. And they are I kind of alluded to this in the last episode. This is all marketing strategies that are can create an influx of new leads for you, but they are at zero cost. So today I'm not focusing on things like digital ads and or anything that's going to cost you money. I find one of the biggest questions I get from a lot of female entrepreneurs and one I've been getting lately, hence also wanting to do this episode today, is just like, "Hey, I need help with my marketing. What should I be doing? And what do I do if I don't have a lot of money to be spending on it?" And, if you look this up, this runs across the board, but I find that the average business, is spending on average, I would say about 10% of their revenue, and this is very conservative depending on the type of your business, because it does depend if you have a product or a service. There are some different numbers, but I'm gonna give you some kinda general numbers, is that like if you generate $1 million in revenue, it's very common to have about $100,000 bill in your marketing. But then there are other businesses, usually service-based businesses, tend to run a little bit leaner. So, find that that is anywhere from 1 to 5%, with most of the entrepreneurs that I work with, which is my sweet spot is really, $500,000 revenue and above and going to get to that seven-figure level. But when most people come to me, they are in that level of where they're making about $500,000 revenue, and they're looking to get to that $1 million revenue mark. And what you need to do between 500,000 and 1,000,000 is really a very wide, range of skills that need to be implemented as well as team. So, I don't want that's gonna be an episode for another day because I am getting lots of questions about that in terms of scaling and team building, team development. But today we're gonna focus on the marketing things that you can do and, the framework I teach all of my coaching clients when we look at their marketing plan. And usually we are looking at their marketing plan for a quarter. We're working together on a quarterly basis. But on most of my clients, they commit to about a year of really committing to looking at their marketing this way. So we have a vision a year out, 12 months out, and we're working back reverse engineering on a quarterly basis. So let's talk about those 4 R's. The 4 R's are going to be number one, and I'm going to break down and give you examples of each one on how you could integrate them into your business. But number one is going to be referrals. Number two is going to be rewards, or I like to sometimes call this one, I'll call reciprocation. Number three is going to be reviews. I just want to make sure I gave them in the specific order because this is the order that I really have people focus on a quarterly basis, which we're going to talk about. And then the fourth one is going to be reactivations. So I'm really proud of my husband because he was just sharing with me yesterday about how he did the last one, the reactivation campaign and a referral campaign in our office at the same time without me helping this time around and how successful it was. And one of the things that was such a good reminder, hence that I decided I was going to record this episode today, was just like how simple things we always want to chase that shiny object of like, hey, I need to be spending more money in marketing on Facebook and Insta. And, like I need to be on LinkedIn ads, whatever it is that you use for your business in terms of a digital approach to marketing. And I'm going to talk about organic stuff here that's free, way beyond your content calendar, because I think it's pretty much a given that you need to have a content calendar in this day and age, whether you do content every day, content every couple hours, content once a week, whatever that is. You need to have a plan in place that is always creating organic brand and influence. However, with that said, these are going to be strategies today that are going to be directly affecting your bottom line because it's going to be driving a lead in. And that's why I teach them as the 4 R's. So again, referral, reward, review, and then your final one is going to be reactivate. So let's talk about referrals first. Now, I always like to say referrals are going to always be the best source of your business. Um, Reason being is that they are much easier to convert because they already have trust, a level of trust from someone else that has worked with you. So, a couple of things on referrals that I like to focus on right out of the gate. Number one is first, I will always ask my clients, what systems do you have in place for referrals? And I'm going to give you an example of like my husband's business. Like I said, chiropractic office. We do other things besides chiropractic. We do functional lab work. We do soft wave technology. But with this said, I always think about this example because when we were first starting out, and to this day, this is always a focus of our systems. Of when we have new doctors come in, our associates working with us, we want to make sure where in our business do we have it systemized that they ask for a referral? Because if you do not get it systemized, then you will not do it on a consistent basis. So when it comes to the first step of looking at referrals, I'm going to ask, what systems in place do you have in your practice, in your business, in your service, in your product, in your experience that you have where you consistently ask current clients or customers, however you refer to them, for a referral? Now, with that said, usually the answer to that is a big goose egg. This is actually on my intake form on a lot of my clients because I find that this is something that is super overlooked. And I'm going to stick with the chiropractic example because it's very concrete. And then I'll use a example of a dentist that I've worked with as well. So, two service-based businesses. So, number one, referrals for chiropractic. For example, our average patient is about a 4 month, they see us for 4 months at upfront. Now, obviously, that's not the life cycle of our patient. We really work to extend that. But the average person is going to come into our office on whatever frequency for 4 months. And there's going to be so many visits within that 4 months, which is all told to them ahead of time and mapped out for this patient ahead of time. Now, with that said, we add or subtract as needed in terms of the level of care they need to get the desired result they want. Now, with that said, that means that we need to have a system for when we strategically ask for a referral. So, our first ask for a referral is their first day when they come in as a new patient and they get a full experience of a very different doctor's visit than they originally anticipated in most scenarios. First of all, the doctor is going to meet with you one on one, not for 5 minutes, but for 45 minutes, where they're going to go through a detailed health history and do any other reporting that needs to be done, such as x rays or any type of exam that needs to be done based on what they're presenting with. And where our first part of the process is to ask for a referral when they're checking out for any family members that might also benefit from getting a exam like they just had. So that's our first referral. Our second referral is when they start as a new patient and we have them come to what we call our Better Results Faster workshop. So that workshop is then going to educate them on how they get the most out of their chiropractic care at our office, and how it basically trains them on how to be a really kick-ass patient so they get their desired result now that they've made a financial investment in it. And that not only are we going to ask them if they would like to bring anybody to that workshop, but we are going to ask them again when they're leaving if they would like to schedule anyone based on their first experience within their first couple like week or so of care. And then the third time we're gonna ask for a referral is at their 12 visit mark. So, sometimes it's 13, sometimes but we know that in about 10 to 12 visits, they're gonna really start to see shifts, right? So, they might get immediate relief, especially if they're acute right away, but this is where they're gonna start to see that not only is this a lifestyle, but that how they maintain the result that they're starting to move towards, and we're going to ask for a referral again. And then the fourth time we're going to ask for a referral is when they're finishing their care, right? And in between, we might have a referral campaign of some sort that might happen. But the reason that I share this part with you is that's so important is that you can see that in our system, it is mapped out when we ask for a referral. And it's actually it's consistent, but it's also scheduled. So I want you to look at your business, whether it's a product or service or experience you deliver, and find out, when do we ask for referrals? And because not only is your referral going to be, like I said, your easiest conversion, it's also going to be the one of the ones that is going to also possibly lead to more referrals in the future. And one of the things that I think is really important about referrals, and it could be maybe you're at a networking event and you're asking for referrals, but in this scenario, I want you to really think about, where do I have it systemized that I ask for a referral? Is it when a client is 6 months into your process? Is it when a client is been to you for the first time? When do you start to have that level of trust and rapport that will increase the chances of you getting a referral? And let me be really clear with this too. There are some people that will never give you a referral. They just don't know how. They're maybe more introverted. They don't need know how they would even go about that. And I always say it's not your job to educate them, but it's your job to ask consistently to see if that eventually one day they might have a friend, family member, or coworker that does need what you have to sell or offer. So, when it comes to referrals, that is a really, really good way, is looking at your referral system that you have in place for your business and kind of tweaking that and starting to implement that is the number one way I find you can start to create an influx of leads for free into your business. The second part of referrals is going to be actually running a very structured referral campaign. Now, when I say very structured, I don't mean structured and like, then this happens and then this happens and all of these rules, right? But this is an opportunity for you to make it fun for people to give you referrals so that you generate some energy around it. So I talked about this, I think, on an episode before, but one of the things that we're gearing up to is that we do a promotion called Christmas in July. It's actually it involves multiple of these strategies, but in Christmas in July, patients can refer and get a ticket. They get tickets. We put the tickets in there for them, take all the steps out of it that we can. And every time they refer someone, they get tickets that goes into a jar. And we usually do a big giveaway. Last year, it was like a cooler full of grass fed beef for your 4th of July barbecue. We've done just Whole Foods gift certificates. One of the years we did gas cards just for fun because, like, the price of gas was so ridiculous, and still is. So we had fun with it, but we generated a tremendous amount of referrals. Last month, we did a Mother's Day referral campaign, and my husband, Ryan, was telling me that we had one of the best referral campaigns we've had in a really long time, and we just used the momentum of Mother's Day of like, "Hey, do you have a mom that you know that might need some TLC?" Um, and that she could come in for a new patient exam, and you could pay for it as part of her Mother's Day gift or something like that. And I think, like I said, that really generated because now this is also taking a barrier to entry away. So, for example, let's say it's I want my mom to come in. And but my mom's like, "Hey, I don't really know what to expect. I don't really want to pay that like the retail price for it." And I'm like, "No worries. I paid a discounted price, which we do a discount for it. And I paid for it already. All you need to do is call and schedule it." And now it's such a great lead source because now not only have I told my mom about how amazing the service they offer is, but it also is paid for and all they have to do is one step, which is schedule it. And this, I guess, two steps, show up. And then they get delivered that TLC that they really need to start getting their health turned around in a different direction. So that's referrals. Then when it comes to reactivate is on I'm sorry, reward. Reward is our second step and reward is going to be, hey, once that person gave you a referral, what am I going to do about it? I'm going to reward them. And so here's small ways that we reward them in our practice is like, for example, when someone gives a referral, we give them a coffee card and it says like, thank you for your referral. We give them a actually handwritten note, which those are totally lost in this day and age. Now, if you're a bigger business, obviously that goes away. But I'll give you an example. I just had a tax strategist I was working with, and she was sending when after my call with her, she sent a thank you note, like a handwritten thank you note. Now, did she write that thank you note? I have no idea. Um, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that she rewarded me for sending someone her way by sending me a card, handwritten, and didn't have a gift or anything in it. It was just the acknowledgement that she appreciated the referral. So, really just thinking about, that is really huge. Also too, on reward is like fun little things, like the dentist I was talking to you about is like, sometimes like she'll like send me like, "Hey, thanks for your referral, and here's a new toothbrush." Again, not a big thing, not a lot of money, but something that just stood out because I'm not gonna see her again until a couple of months. So she wanted to make sure it didn't go by that I unnoticed that I sent her a referral because by the time I see her next time, she might forget, even though I know she documents it in her system. So small little things like that make a huge difference. It makes me want to refer more people when I get rewarded or it's reciprocated, meaning I'm giving you the biggest thank you I can give you, which is actually sending someone to you. So that's give them a thank you back. And again, doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Rewards, another example of reward I love to use is a patient appreciation day or a customer appreciation night. Maybe it's, maybe you're into classic cars and so are your clients. Maybe you do travel tours on classic cars. I don't know, whatever it is. And maybe you host a classic car night and you invite all of your customers that have one to show off. Maybe you invite them just in their families and it includes a barbecue for everyone to eat for free. And it's on you. Obviously, it's a tax deduction, but it's just a nice way for you to reward your current clients, regardless of what level of reward that is. So, like I said, it can be as simple as a thank you card, handwritten note. Um, where you want to stay away from on rewards is you don't want to systemize this one as much, meaning you want to have, let's say you do the coffee cards like we do. We have, a big stack of the coffee cards and our team is very good at documenting who gave a referral. And we notate it in the system. That way when they go to get adjusted, we know, hey, so Susie Q needs a coffee card and a thank you because she sent in Bobby Joe. And I don't know why I always use Susie Q and Bobby Joe. So that's a really, really good way for you to do rewards. We worked with a digital agency, a social media marketing company, that they used to send us flowers every anniversary of our customer arrangement, right? So we work with them, and then one year they sent us like little key tags, like tiles with their name of their company that we could put on our keys. or anything you wanted to put on. And I remember thinking, "Oh, man, that was a unexpected gift." But at the same time, it was really practical and valuable, so I value that. But it stood out, and it was a really, really nice gesture that made us feel loved and appreciated, and the card would always be signed by their whole team. So, next one we're gonna talk about, this one's pretty simple. I know I don't have to spend a lot of time on it, is reviews. Now, here's what I find with reviews. Reviews are one of those things that it's like they're awesome to have, but people really do read them, especially in this day and age. A couple years ago, I did not put as much like weight into the reviews, but now I find that it is so critical, not only for the algorithm, but also for and not I should say, not to build your ego, but that was I think the original thing was, like, of reviews of knowing getting feedback if you're doing a good job, but that's not what the reviews I'm talking about. The reviews here are ones that you really want where they are not bait and switch. They are not formulated for, like, and fed to people. I remember we used to do a lot of, like, video testimonials, and it was so hard to get people to do video, but it is so easy to get people to write a review. So here's where I'm going to start to get back into the systems. What systems do you have in place for reviews? Do you use a service? We do use a service that sends them a review because you want to take as much guesswork as possible out of the review process. You do not want to have it like go here and then scan here and then do this and all of these steps where especially older people become very overwhelmed. It should be like click here to write your review now. And a lot of times they get that review when they've just left our office. And or sometimes they're sitting still in our office and it's a great opportunity for them to share their experience. Um, this is also something as part of the Christmas in July campaign that we do aside from the review process. So we know on the systemization when we ask for reviews, but then there are also other times, like I said, Christmas in July, where we have it structured where we, if they won't give us a referral or they don't know how to give us a referral, we will say, hey, no problem. How about you just review the level of care you got here at our office or the level of service you've got from me as your coach. Not only is it invaluable feedback, it's actually really fun. We usually choose a review a week or sometimes a month with our team that we'll bring up and we'll be like, because a lot of times our reviews say specific things about an employee we have or a team member. And so we want to not only bring that up to that and acknowledge that to employee, but as those start rising, like I said, a lot of times you can start to push people down in the algorithm that really are paying money to have Google ads and that sort of thing. And you're still showing up because your reviews, it makes a big difference when I go to a restaurant review and I see 5 reviews versus 105 reviews. There's just a very big clout in that. So really chasing and asking consistently for reviews is going to be your third marketing strategy is like, where do you ask for reviews? And then finally, the last one is going to be one that I find is very, very overlooked. And this is going to be your reactivation strategy. So, reactivation strategy, again, totally free, especially if you have a service. But even if you don't have a service, this is something that can be done pretty easily. Um, One of the things that I always talk about here too is with reactivation is like I said, we use a service now where they can kind of look back at our database and see like, hey, we can date it where it's like, hey, this get show me all of patients who haven't come in since this date. And we can send them a text and give them an offer of some sort. Key here on reactivation is there has to be some sort of offer. It can't just be like, we miss you. We would love to see you. No, it has to be like, "Hey, for a limited time, we're going to give you this offer. We're gonna give you a free adjustment in our case, um, because we do miss you," right? So we're gonna give you something of value for you to come back into the office. Now, here's what you're gonna find in reactivation. Some of them are gonna be people that are just, like, geographically have moved if you have a physical location. But when it comes to a digital type product or service, this is a huge, huge focus for most of my women business owners that have some sort of business like that, because you are not geographically limited on a reactivation campaign if you have a digital business. So sometimes it's even with coaching, there are people that like we get to a certain result, then they want to kind of go down a different path for a little while, meaning they got the result they wanted. Now they're going to either stick with it and they're going to come back when they have a new challenge or sometimes a new business or sometimes it's new employee. Some sort of change in the business is what made them come back to the reactivation strategy. So you want to make sure that you are always reactivating and marketing. I say minimum once per year, ideally every 6 months, to that old list of clients and customers that you have served, like in a good way. Obviously, if you have some clients in there that are coming up on that list that you would not want to work with, and again, you click delete. You do not include them. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll even include people that I know move away, on a geographic location, because I know that sometimes it might be just a reminder that we offered to them and they'll come back and they'll say, "Hey, I don't live here anymore. I live in Florida now, but I would love my friend Susie Q to come in." And if Susie Q's never seen us, we say, "Great, connect us with her, and we will," now she becomes a referral, "and we will give her a different offer." But it's a great way for us to now even connect with past patients, past customers, and even if they're not in this area anymore, we can still use it to generate some new leads. So, that is the way that we do reactivation. When it comes to Christmas in July, what like I said, is we kind of run a multi-step campaign where we ask for referrals, we ask for reviews, and then in the background, we have a reactivation campaign going on because that's about the 6-month mark of the year. So, that's a really good strategy for you if you want to really systemize your marketing so you know what you're working on, because that's the beauty of I think working with a coach is that a lot of the things that I'm doing with my clients is really just keeping them accountable to what they said they were going to do, right? So if they said their goal was to get 20 new clients a month, and so a total of, you know, 20, so 60 for, yeah, 60 for the quarter, then I know that that's what we're going to look for. And that means that our goal for 12 months should be by the end of this year, whether the year starting with them. A lot of my clients, I start at any point in the year, right? So, but I will always ask them 12 months from now, what is the number of leads you want to generate? And a lot of people, they start to get uncomfortable when you start asking these specific questions. But this is how you start to work and reverse engineer on a quarterly basis is you have to have that vision of that 12 months out. What's that future look like? And we set these goals very strategically. We set them in three facets. We call the first one reasonable, meaning what's reasonable? Usually reasonable is pretty close to what you hit last year, but a little bit over is what I like to say. This is the one most people are really comfortable doing, but also one of the ones that is sometimes the most uncomfortable because some people don't know what they did last year because they have no metrics that they're measuring. The next thing that we're going to talk about is that what's radical, what would sound kind of like a little bit like if you did, if you got 100 leads this year and then you said, "Hey, I think 125 is a reasonable goal, but 150 or 175, that sounds a little bit like of a stretch," then that's going to be what we call your radical. And then the last one is going to be your ridiculous. And that's going to be ridiculous is going to be like, that doesn't even sound possible based on what I did today. But you start to put it out there, you start to manifest it, and you start to actually work smarter, not harder, and measure different metrics. So or a ridiculous one might be like, "Hey, last year I generated 100 leads, and now this year, from 12 months from this date that we're setting this goal, what would be ridiculous is for me to have 200 new leads, so to double my lead flow." So I want you to just really start to think about that's going to be an episode for another day, and just I'm putting that in my note in my head right now is that that's going to be like what types of metrics we measure. when we're working with a one-on-one client, and which ones, and I like to say on metrics is like you really start to define the ones that matter, but this one's universal. Is like, hey, how many generate leads did I generate last month? How many did I generate last quarter, last year? Those are our three basic questions. And we start with that data. So we start to know what we need to generate for us to not only sustain where we're at, but ultimately to grow and then to grow to a whole new level. Right. So that's our, we start reaching for those reasonable, radical, and then those ridiculous goals. But when it comes back to marketing, those are three more R's. I did just thought about that. Um, for today's episode, I want you to really focus on how you could use these four R's: referral, reward, review, and reactivation. I want to make sure I put them in the right order again to recap, um, for you to grow your business. And the first question is of each R, where in my current systems do I do this behavior? So, for example, where do I currently ask for referrals in my current business systems? Where do I currently reward people that have referred in my current business systems? Where do I currently consistently ask for a review in my current business systems? In my current business systems, how often do I make an offer to reactivate old clients and customers? And then the second part is where you can get a little bit more creative, right? So we go from systems to the creativity of it, because the systems is more of an execution, but you still have to look at the big picture. But when it comes to the creativity, this is where you get to have fun with it. And part of Moms Making Dough is like putting fun in our finance and in our future of where our business is going. So thinking about, okay, if I'm looking at referrals, what month, what quarter am I going to run a organized referral campaign that will be fun? Maybe it's Christmas in July where we do a big giveaway. Where with reward, it might be, hey, I'm going to run a campaign for reward in Thanksgiving season. So November, because that's a really great way for me to also use the momentum of Thanksgiving, gratitude, of being grateful for our patients. But where can I do it on an everyday basis is where I'm looking at the system for it. But the fun is where I can do it more on a quarterly basis. Then when it comes to reviews, maybe it's, hey, once a year, we do a very big push on reviews. Now we have systems in place for that on a regular basis, but what's something that can make it fun? And then on the reactivation, same thing is like, how could we make that fun? How could we make that an offer? How could we make that a contest? Not just like, hey, we miss you. We want you back. Right. And so getting creative on the other side of these four R's, on the refer, the reward, the review, and lastly, the reactivation are three or four ways, or three or four strategies, not three or four, they're four, for you to really start to maximize whatever type of business you have, whether whatever industry you're in, and wherever you are in your current business growth. These are four things that are absolutely guaranteed to create some new lead generation into your business today that cost you nothing. So, again, refer, reward, review, reactivate. Those are the four R's that you need to look at and figure out in your business, not only where they systemize, but where can you customize. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share it with someone that does need an influx of new leads for free. And as always, please rate, review, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Mums Making Dough.